Hey everyone, it's got Rita, Laurel, Lisa. We had Steph jump on before. Oh yeah, she's still on there. Hi girls. Hey everyone. How you going? Today is a really exciting day because I've been doing some really awesome work, which of course that's kind of what I like to do. But pretty much today I'm really going to get into some really juicy stuff. So get your pens, get your paper, all that sort of thing, and I'm going to kind of get straight into it, go through it all, and then we're going to have some time at the end to have a little bit of a chat, because you know me, I like having a bit of a chat. So if you want to, like while I'm talking, if you want to say anything without unmuting yourself, I've got a little chat box on the side. So you can type in there, and if I'm saying something and you go, oh, what does that mean, or whatever, I can then just expand a little bit more or whatever. So nod your heads to know that what I'm saying is good. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to say something really important now, and we're going to feel into what you think your truth is around this. So you are never stuck. You are limitless. You have the ability to create your own destiny. Who thinks that? Well, Rita's saying yes. Lisa's not sure. Disagreeing a little bit. Okay, so we want to really know how. So how are we going to do it when we're stuck with bills, if we're sick, or, you know, get down every now and then, get anxiety and stuff happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk today about how we can do this and how we can get through it. So I know it doesn't really make much sense when, like, all these spiritual people, they come along and they say, oh, don't worry about the money, it'll come, you know, put it out there. And you're just like going, well, I've got bills to pay, mouths to feed, you know. That's all good that you can tell me that. But at the end of the day, that's not gonna put the food on the table. So let me just tell you something that will help you to actually make it really, really happen. And so when people say that, you can literally believe and agree and follow along with them, because you've got tools to use. So just let me explain like how things are right now, and then what's kind of happening at the moment. So right now we live in what is called a third dimensional reality, or you might call it the third dimensional earth. So in the third dimension, we have a lot of different characteristics around how life is here, and what we need to do to live this life. So in the third dimension, everything is solid matter with 3 dimensions only. So say I pick up this box and it's this third dimensional box, like it is what it is. So in the third dimension where we live, this is what we deal with. And I'm just going to go through all the characteristics as to what we deal with. So we have limitations, we have rules, we have boundaries, we have a concept of like a past and a future. We have linear time. So we've got this time that we're dealing with. There's conditional love. So you either love or you hate things. And there's also behaviors such as feeling guilty, having fear, blame, struggle, stuck. There's also judgment. There's pride. There's victim. There's jealousy. There's competition. People think some of these things are really good too. There's good and bad, right or wrong. There's beliefs and perceptions, and they all rule where we live right now in this third dimension. So the other thing with this third dimension is simply that pain and trauma and drama are all purposes for us to learn and to grow. So we're actually asking for these things to happen so that we can then achieve what we want to achieve, which is our purpose of being here, is to learn and to grow and have experiences. So the other thing about the third dimension is that we have a really strong rational mind. If you've got that. So your logical or your conscious mind. So this pretty much is like taking over most of your thought processes and tries to take control of everything for you. So that's another thing we're dealing with in our third dimensional world. And the other thing is that we have what you call a buffer in the third dimensional world. So if you want something, it actually doesn't happen immediately or automatically. It actually takes time for things to happen. And it gives you an opportunity to make a choice or a different choice if you want to change your mind. So this is where, in this process of living in a third dimension, where, like, if you read all of that, you pretty much go, yeah, that's where we are at the moment. That pretty much sounds like the life that I live. So I'm just going to play around with something here. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to talk about how do we get from this kind of life when people say, no, it's really easy, you just put it out there and it'll all work out and you'll be fine and everything else. Those kind of characteristics don't go along with that mindset. But I'm going to tell you what you can do and how we can move from that third dimensional reality into living an abundant life, a life that you're never stuck, that you're never struggling, and that you can start to live this limited life or limitless life. So from the 21st of December 2012, who remembers that date? Because everyone said the world was going to end on the 21st of December 2012. So what actually happened on 21st of December 2012 is the Ascension process began. So the way we lived prior to that time was purely based on that third dimensional planetary level. So when the Mayan calendar finished on the 21st of December 2012, this signified the beginning of a massive shift. And this was the beginning of what they're calling the Ascension process. So you might look back to that time of your life in, say, 2012 and see that, like, in a short time, you've actually not only had lots of changes happen in your life, but also so many things have personally happened to you since that time. So you may have found that there was some massive life changes, endings or beginnings, drama or trauma around that time. And then since then, you've really been evolving and changing as a person pretty much inside and out. So since then, you've probably then been finding that life is throwing you challenge after challenge after challenge. And this is because it's giving you the opportunity, bringing all that stuff up and giving you the opportunity for you to clear all those third dimensional, what we call third dimensional behaviors, beliefs, traumas, pain from that third dimensional world that we live in, so that you can move on to higher levels of consciousness. And that is pretty much what the Ascension process is. The thing is that most of us struggle with that part of dealing on how to get rid of those old behaviors, those beliefs and that trauma and that pain. And I'll share a little bit more about that after we go through a little bit more about the Ascension process and what it all means and so forth. So the planet is now, because it's been, 5 years? 5 years since 2012. So since then, the planet has been moving and shifting very quickly energetically. You'll probably find that you've had a lot of physical stuff happen. A lot of people tend to put on weight, or there's other kind of joint issues, things like that. Work, we've usually changed jobs a few times maybe in that short period of time. Friends have come and go, family issues, lots and lots of different things have happened just in this short time, because the planet is actually now moving into this fourth and fifth dimensional consciousness. And it's been doing that ever since that day. So what that means is what worked before 2012 is actually not going to work when you move into a different level of consciousness, which is that fourth and fifth dimension. Now, really, if you think about it too, third dimensional is things are as they are. You know, this box is a box, and it's just, as you move into these different levels of consciousness, it's actually endless as to what things are. Like we say that's a box, but as we move into different levels of consciousness, it actually ends up becoming something else. and it's not what you see in front of you. So even though to someone who is still locked in a third dimensional reality, it looks like a box to them, but to you, you'll actually start to see something different. And this is where you're starting to experience different things in your life since that, those 5 years have been going on. As you're going through, you're actually having different experiences and seeing things differently to how you used to see things before 2012. So humanity is going through a massive consciousness shift. And what this requires is a really massive re-education of everything that we've learned from the past as a third dimensional being. And then you'll notice that moving into these next dimensions, well, it's more of a level of consciousness, you will then see that we don't really have a rule book as to what this looks like and where we're going and how you do it. So think about, I'm going to go back to 2012 and how much has really changed, even technologically wise, like phones, things like that. We've got phones, we've got the, computers these days. All the technology has really shifted and changed so much. But mainly our thinking has really shifted a lot. So we're starting to really question who we are, why we're here, what is my purpose, and we're having an innate knowledge of knowing that we deserve to have a good life, but it's just not coming to fruition, is it? So you're always seeking and searching for what to do about that. So it brings, what that does is it brings us to your spirituality and your thirst for knowledge in that area. So spirituality before Ascension, like before 2012, was pretty hush-hush. You wouldn't actually really hear about it. People couldn't really freely talk about it that much. And anything around the universe or intuition or anything like that, people would kind of just look at you weird if you spoke that way. But now you probably will notice that it's pretty common to say, just check your angel cards or get your pendulum or, trust the universe will provide for you. And if you look even with Oprah's work and all that sort of thing, they're all going into the universe and spirituality and how things work. And it's really becoming quite popular now, this, if you want to call it, industry around spirituality, because everyone is shifting and awakening and moving into this area. And this is all because of the ascension process. So you'll see more and more people wake up or awaken to these infinite possibilities and their own universal powers. But then we're going to go, well, again, we know what third dimension looks like, and we've played in it long enough, and we've actually played in it for generations and generations before us as well. So we don't really know what these fourth and fifth dimensions look like. We don't know what they feel like. We don't even know what they've got in store for us. So this is where we're going into a little bit more about what these fourth and fifth dimensions hold for us and how we can live in those. So starting with the fourth dimension, it's simply just a shift of consciousness to a different way of being. So when you do that, your energy changes, and then with it, it aligns you with characteristics of this new dimension, and it's really easy. So the fourth dimension is all about flow and ease, allowing, possibility, capability, and acceptance. Time is an illusion, but time is only like present time. There is no such thing as before or after, future or past. There is only what's happening right now. And choice is really a big characteristic of the fourth dimension. So that means that whenever and if you might even have these experiences yourself, if you've stepped a little bit into your fourth dimension reality, is that you might say, well, this is an issue that I'm dealing with at the moment. And if you go into what are my choices here, that means you've stepped into your fourth dimension consciousness, because it's all about choice. And as you start working more in the fourth dimension, you'll find that your choices are unlimited. So if something doesn't work, you can always go to the next thing and the next thing. And it's all about that level of expansiveness and growing from that level, rather than I only have one choice or I have no choice. So decisions and interactions are based on facts and truth, not perceptions or beliefs. And then there's an innate detachment from drama, where the person will be more of an observer of what is and responding accordingly from an awareness of observation. So when there's something that comes into their awareness that would usually maybe rattle someone who is in a third dimensional reality, the fourth dimensional consciousness will literally just look and see, okay, so what's going on here? What is it telling me? And what do I need to take from this? And this is where, again, if you put yourself in that mindset, that's where you'll find that you'll be operating and living in a fourth dimensional consciousness. So the other thing is that what was true before may not be true now. So if you think about things like rules and beliefs and meanings, so good or bad, that's really good, that's really bad. There's no such thing as that in this consciousness. So whatever beliefs you had before this very time are actually null and void. And it's pretty much open to whatever beliefs you want to choose or whatever you want to have or what thoughts you want to have for what's going on right now, because we don't even talk future. It's actually what is going on right now and how does that feel for me? And it's always good, because there's no such thing as good or bad. It just is. So there's no meanings or definitions. There's no someone holding or something holding anyone back. And change is constant. So people stepping into this fourth dimensional reality are very open to change. They literally embrace and follow change. And then it's then experience that once that change occurs, that it's constant and it's welcome, so it's continued on. So the fourth dimensional reality is a clearer, calmer place of happiness and well-being, where we can live still in a third dimensional world, but have a fourth dimensional consciousness. And then moving into the fifth dimension, it's much more powerful level of consciousness than the third and the fourth dimension, because it operates on instantaneous time. So what that means is things happen instantly. Think it and it happens. Ask and it's given them immediately. Whereas if you think about the third dimension, it's if there's that buffer, and fourth dimension, there's always choice. So fifth dimension, you pretty much ask for it and it happens. So if that is happening to you right now, that means you're putting your foot into that fifth dimensional consciousness or level of consciousness. So this is where the awareness is of being the creator of your own reality and co-creator with the creator himself. So we get our conversations with the universe, bringing our spiritual teams in, things like that. And that the communication there is putting our foot into that fifth dimensional reality. So then interacting with the creator, and as I say, like living life guided, is pretty much what you do when you're in a fifth dimensional level of consciousness. So then oneness, unity, joy, and love are characteristics of this fifth dimension, where curiosity flows on from awareness and love is unconditional. There is no conditional love. You actually are in love with everything and everyone. And there is little, if no, required use of the rational mind, the conscious mind, the logical mind. So this explains a little bit about all the different levels of consciousness and what you can do. I'm going to give you a little bit of a thinking time now to go into which level you think you might be at. So you may be still in the third dimension, which is still stuck, limited, whatever, but you're wanting to move through to the ease and flow of the fourth and then the fifth dimension. You might be dabbling a little bit in the fourth dimension, but still have some third dimensional characteristics that you keep slipping back into, and you pretty much want to maintain in the fourth and the fifth dimension. Or if you've done the third and the fourth and you're ready to jump into the fifth dimensional expansiveness. So I've pretty much gone through all of them and I still play in all of them. Mainly I've been told so I can I still understand and appreciate what it's like to be stuck in the third dimension. Love it when they give me that. But it's only just so I can still be this level of, humanity that can understand and still work with people in a third dimensional reality. And so I know how to move through the third, the fourth, and the fifth dimensions, and getting us to that level of consciousness to get to that, ultimate utopian space. So let me just explain. It was maybe last week sometime I was walking on the beach, and what happened is I go down for my little chats with the universe and my team and so forth. And as I'm there, I was just thinking to myself, I've got actually nothing to worry about. I've got no problems. And that's where I realized that the reason why we have problems is simply for us then to get into action, to do things and to learn and to grow. And that's pretty much why we're here in a third and even stepping into the fourth dimension. But what I was then shown was that as we step into the fifth dimension, we don't need problems and adversity to grow and to learn, because that is our purpose to being here. So what we're then doing is we're stepping into a level of being experimental. So that's where we live in complete expansiveness to receiving what is and what can be, and also what is possible. And when we are living in a level of experimental state, that's where whatever anything comes into our awareness and we need to deal with it, we can literally experiment with it, knowing that there's no end and no beginning when you're experimenting. There is no right or wrong. There is no failure. There is literally just receiving different ways of how to deal with a certain thing, and then literally using the way that works. And that is that next kind of moving into between the fourth and the fifth dimension, which is really quite powerful. So I'm just going to come into you guys now, and I'm just going to go in order next to me. I'm going to just jump in and ask Steph. I'm going to unmute you. Hello, my darling. So listening to all of that, where do you think you might be fitting within the levels of consciousness?
I think I'm very aware of the fourth dimension, and like things have been happening to me that are like exciting, because it feels like I'm just living instead of like working all the time, or like, but I still, like, my mind goes back to the, like, I'm scared to lose it actually. So I was like, and so like that's how I slipped back into the third dimension, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm living so free, and I'm like so free right now, and I feel so aligned. I feel like everything's good. And then I've been waking up actually lately really anxious, but I think I'm anxious because I'm scared I'm gonna lose that, like, whatever I'm like, what I feel like I'm doing it like you're riding a bike and you're like gonna fall off, and so you get scared. Like, it's crazy. Like today I decided like I wanted to spend the day with my son because he was out of school, so we went just like outdoor mall thing, and like I wanted to have lunch at his favorite restaurant, and we went to bookstore because he loves books, and then I went to go see a movie, but I'm like kind of like actually worried about money because my husband hadn't put money into our joint account. I was like, I probably shouldn't spend too much money today, but whatever, we'll just go and we'll figure it out. So I go to the movies, and they'd canceled the time that we wanted to go. So she's like, you can get free tickets to go to any other show, any other time. So I got free movie tickets. So I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. I've been getting like a lot of free things like that, like little things. Like I went to Whole Foods and I was looking for something that I wanted, and then like they were like, they couldn't find it, so they had me walking around the store. So when we found it, the girl gave me one for free because she's like, oh, sorry for your trouble, take one for free. I'm like, what? Okay. So, but I feel like I'm so nervous that I'm going to like get out of alignment. So I'm like, now I feel like, and then it's like, oh, I shouldn't think like that, because then that's going to make me get out of alignment.
Yeah, and that's where there's that rational mind is taking over and trying to control things. So you always know the great way to do that is just going back to the current moment, and just using those things that you've actually done before as a confirmation that you're actually okay.
Yeah, but I think it's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So like wait until you move like between the fourth and the fifth. It's really quite cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah, but I feel like I'm barely hanging on to the fourth. Like,
that's okay. It's just a stage. And there's the thing is, because if I can just explain with these third and fourth and fifth dimensions, like it's not like they're different levels. It's actually just a change in consciousness. So it does take some time for when you're living in that way, you can see that you've gone from the third and you're playing in the fourth, but the third keeps dragging you back. And it's like, the reason why we keep getting dragged back into the third is that there are beliefs and experiences from the third that are still within us, like energetically within us. So the more that we release stuff from that third dimension, or what I can call the third dimensional experience that we've had, the more we release that stuff, the more we can step into the fourth dimension. And that is pretty much the only way that we can move forward into that. And you'll probably find that there'll be a lot of people around that that you know that really are living quite unconscious, and they're just not interested in working on themselves at all, they won't be stepping more into the Lisa's nodding. They'll pretty much be staying in what you call the third dimensional reality. Doesn't mean that they will be that you will disappear and that they won't be there. It just means that even if you live with them, or even if you're still with them, it just means that you won't be triggered by them, but you'll still be with them. But I also know sometimes I actually play around with the fourth and dimensional reality, and I don't know if you've got those over there, but over here we've always got these people selling things or whatever outside of the grocery stores, and they're always trying to get you to sign up for things or whatever.
Yeah.
I always, whenever I go past them, I just step into my fourth and fifth dimensional reality, and I just say I'm invisible, and they never ever see me. And I'm not joking. And they'll grab people in front of me, grab people behind me, and there was one who was standing right next to me, and I literally walked straight in front of them. This is at an airport, actually. I walked straight in front of them, and they did not see me.
That's
so
nice.
It's fun. It's really fun. So they will kind of stay where they are, and that's okay, because they're still that's part of their life journey. Again, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. That's just where they are. They've just got a lot of stuff to work on, but that's just their choice. But for us who do want to move forward into what you want to call the utopian life, there is just it's a process of shedding. Mm-hmm. That's how. So if you're triggered, and we've talked about this before because we get to catch up a lot, which is awesome. But this is where when you come from a place of total awareness and that you find things are popping up, you then just treat them as triggers, and just showing you something from the third dimension that is ready to go.
Yeah.
And that is why everyone's been triggered.
I can't identify it though.
That's okay. We go through this in our processes when we work together anyway, like how to work through them. All you need to do is focus on the emotion.
Yeah.
Because the emotion will always lead to a core belief, a core experience, something like that. So we can if we can try, as we're sort of kind of moving more towards the fourth and the fifth dimensions, if we can try and get excited when we're triggered. I know it's hard. But if we
I'm anxious as hell.
If we can get excited, because it's just showing us something that we probably didn't even know was in there. And once that's gone, the more that you chip away and the more you get rid of, the more that you can move up into these next dimensions. And the thing is, we are going to have so much fun in these other dimensions. Like I already am, but I'm taking more people with me, which is really quite cool. So get excited about those things. And so you can already see that you're being shown, like you're being given proof of how this works. And it's funny you say that about getting the free things, because I was told yesterday on my walk on the beach that a third dimensional consciousness will only think that money is the only way that you can get things. Mm-hmm. There are so many different ways that things can come to us, and that's when we open our expansiveness to say, well, it's actually not just money that'll bring it to us. We can have anything that we want, but we've got to bring our consciousness back to the current moment and say, okay, so I'm just going to stay here, and then whatever I'm guided to do next or whatever is the way to bring that towards my level of consciousness and reality. So, and that's how you can create more of that reality that you want, is by saying, having that awareness that this is what I want, what do I need to do right now? So, yay. So now, do you have any questions before I move on around this process?
I don't know. I think I'm good.
Yep. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Hey.
Good to see you.
I had to calculate what time it was. I'm like, what time is it in LA? There. I'm like looking online, trying to figure out, like, her Friday is my Thursday.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. Actually, I've got a few of you over there now, so I pretty much know what time it is these days.
Cool.
You'll have to come and visit.
Yep.
Thanks, darling. I'll see you soon. Okay, Lisa, where do you think you're hiding on the level of consciousness?
In between 3 and 4 at the moment.
Yeah. And how are you going with triggers and things coming up?
Yeah, up and down, but it's mostly my own thoughts like getting away from me, and then I have to pull them back in and stuff.
So that's where you can get excited. and then knowing that it's just old stuff coming up. So again, you can go through that process of saying, okay, what is the emotion around this, and start looking into what you can do about it and what it relates to, and that'll help you just to shed that old stuff. So it's good. Yeah. Any questions about the Ascension process?
Not really.
Does it all make sense? I hope I explained it, because it's actually pretty massive. It might be a good idea if you guys want to Google it afterwards, because there's so much stuff out there around it. And it was interesting when I started doing this work, I received all this information, not even knowing that it was a thing. But I remember when I was, this would have been about 10 years ago, I went and saw a psychic before I could do that myself. And what happened is I was in there and she was saying to me, oh, you're going to be a big part of the Ascension process, and, you know, this is the big, you know, shift in humanity and everything else. And I, you know, 10 years ago, I'm like, what is Ascension? And I Googled it, and all there was out there was information around people dying. That's what happened, is they ascend they ascend to another place. That was the only way that you could ascend, would be to die, because there was only the third dimension, or dying, like to get to this other level of consciousness. And so this is where we're so lucky, and our little souls have chosen this very moment to experience this level of ascension. It's never happened in the whole history of the earth. Never, ever happened before. So we're really lucky that we get this chance, because before 2012, you had to die to do this. It's so cool that we can get to be like human beings on this planet and experience this higher level of consciousness while we're still in our bodies. But again, like, our bodies have had to deal with this stuff too, and there's been a lot of physical shifts going on around all of that, with headaches, weight, autoimmune system issues and things like that. It's just your body trying to realign, and it's doing a good job, but it's hard work for us. And this is where, if you go to the doctors when you've got something going on and they say there's nothing wrong, it's like, well, that's another ascension process. Your body's just up leveling a bit to try and realign with this new energy that's going on. So, yes, it's very interesting. So thanks for joining us, Lisa. It's great to see you, sweetie.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we've got Rita. Hello, my darling.
Hello, how are you? Hi, everyone.
Hi. Now, where do you think you may be on the process, the Ascension process? You've been doing this kind of work for a while.
Yeah, I think I'm probably between 4 and 5, and every now and again I might drop into 3 when some other little bit of shit thinks it needs to come out again. So you think, oh, good God, here we go again.
At least you're aware, though, which is really good.
Yeah. But I think I am far more aware than what I was before, and I don't fall into the trap of just falling into 3D totally and, you know, going into the little black box. And enjoying following the 4D thing quite happily. That's exactly how I moved house. I didn't have to move house. I didn't do anything. I just thought, oh, maybe it's time for me just to move. Yeah. And I did. And within 2 months, the house just turned up one after the other, and I bought a house within 6 hours. And looking at a house 3 times in one day, I thought, oh, God, I think I need to live there. They said yes straight away. I signed the contract. In the evening, I went home to the cat and said, I think we're moving to Karoi. So, yeah.
How many messages do you need?
Yeah, well, that's it. So, yeah. But no, lots of things have changed here as well, and lots of things happen very synchronicity. It just works fabulously, and
definitely.
Very rarely does it not work. And it's just a joy to be in the flow of the magic.
Definitely a 4D characteristic. That is awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it is
good. And I'm glad that, like, because most of everyone here has had glimpses of the 4D life, and it's like if we can try and, like, not force anything or anything, but, you know, when you do get pulled back to the 3D, try and keep that awareness that that, oh, okay, there's something else there that I've got to work with. And even if there's something external to us too, that's got nothing to do with us, but it affects us if we're triggered by it, it's still something we need to learn.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased for you, Rita. That's an awesome place to be, and spread that shit around.
I know. I do.
And have you got any
Thank you.
questions about the Ascension
No,
process? You're all
no.
good. Yeah. Thank you, darling.
Just keep going with the flow.
Just keep swimming. Thank you, darling. Great to see you too.
Thank you.
And we've got, I don't know who's on the phone. Who have we got on the phone? Does anyone want to talk who that is? No. Okay, we'll just say goodbye to them, and I'll see if Laurel can talk. Laurel, can you talk or not?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can. Hello, darling. How are you?
Good. Sorry, I just don't have my camera on, so you can't see me.
That's okay, sweetie pie. So where do you think you're kind of traveling within the different dimensions?
Well, I think if I'm really honest with myself, I still spend most of my time in 3D. Get stuck with the guilt and stuff like that with the kids and the rules, and feel like, teaching them right from wrong and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I've done a lot of courses and stuff with you, and I know about the dimensions, and I know how to let go of beliefs, and I do spend a bit of time teaching other people how to help themselves, but don't apply it to myself very often.
And there's always a good reason for that. But you do also have a lot going on, but this is actually a perfect opportunity to really dig into that kind of stuff. And I think that's where it's also really important to know that you have support around you. Like, you've always got me to ask questions about or anything like that. So I think at the end of the day, support's really important when you are going through these shifts.
Yep.
So that, number one, you're not alone. And also the fact that, again, I really want to stress that there is no such thing as levels. There's not one better than the other. It's just a state of mind and a level of consciousness. So that's where, if we still have stuff from that third dimension that's there, we really can't move on until we get to that next level. So this is where, again, it's really important to have support, but it's also really important to do certain things during the time that these things come up, like a process, or what I call rituals, doing rituals every day, so that you can move through these processes a lot easier and a lot quicker. But also just that level of awareness and acknowledgement. So many times I think to myself, I wish I could just have a tattoo on my hand about what's come up today. so I could literally then just say, okay, don't forget this. But we do have that amnesia that's put in there, which really does stop us. And the other thing that's coming up, especially for you, Laurel, and probably anyone else who gets stuck in that third dimensional consciousness, is letting that conscious mind be the ruler.
Yeah, I got a pretty big ego conscious mind.
That's okay. It is what it is. It'll get to a stage where you'll just say, I've had enough of you. And then you'll just go, I am done with you, and it's time to move on. I will say I'm very lucky with mine because I did tapping for years with clients. I was able to knock that down pretty quickly. And so using different tools to be able to deal with that is another way to work with it. With that conscious mind, we can either say, cutting our connection from our head to our body is really quite a good way to shut that up, because we make a joke saying cut your head off, but at the end of the day, it cuts that connection that when it goes through to the rest of your body. But you can still receive information from above while you're not receiving from that conscious mind. But then you can put it into a box. You can actually reduce it and make it smaller or bigger. I've also done lobotomies on conscious with psychic surgery, where I've actually taken that out of someone's head.
Oh, yes, please. I need that. I do.
Anyone that wants a lobotomy, book it in. Just my lobotomy. They're really good, actually. But at the end of the day, and the thing I'm being told for you too, Laurel, is that your level of free choice is something that's going to really help you. So for you to step more into your fourth dimensional reality, you just need to bring in your level of choice every second of the day. So whenever you say to yourself, oh, the kids are driving me mad, I don't have a choice, in your mind, you go, hang on a sec, I chose this, and my other choice is not having them.
Yeah.
Which one would you prefer? And that's where, you know, sometimes a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't have a choice, I have a choice. I say, well, go make a cup of tea and prove that you actually have a choice. Mm-hmm. You have a choice to go and make a cup of tea. Some people can't do that. Make a choice to go for a walk down the street. You have a choice to do that. So the more choice you bring into your day-to-day, Laurel, the more that you'll find that you'll shift away from that third dimension and into that level of choice in the fourth.
Yep.
So try and do that and keep, like, the other thing I think of with the conscious mind is if you connect, because we've done in the certification, we've done a little bit of transmutation work. So what you can do is you can connect to your conscious mind and kind of see what it looks like or visualize what it could look like. And then you can shrink it down to like the size of a pea, and that's a really good thing to do.
Yep. Okay.
Lots of things you can do, but play around with it. Again, when you're playing around, you're actually stepping between the fourth and the fifth dimension, where we're going into experimental mode, which is so much fun. And you can just, again, you'll be able to skip further quicker if you step more into the choice in the experimental mode, which is really cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so try those ones. I mean, again, there's no rules. We don't live by rules here. So try it. If it doesn't work, try something else. But at least you've always got love and support, even if it is online. But,
thank you.
It's always there. And any questions about the Ascension process? I think we've done quite a bit of work with them. So any questions about it?
Not really. I think you explained it differently, or I received it differently this time. So I've been scribbling a lot of notes as well. And that makes sense to me. Yeah. Fantastic. And this is where I've been doing a lot of work on it, so it actually makes more sense to me too. So it's probably why it makes more sense to you. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Thanks for joining us today, darling.
Thanks, Kim.
That's okay. So I think that's everyone that's here that we can have a bit of a chat to. I'm just going to check. Yes. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that with each level of consciousness that we have, whether it's third, fourth or fifth dimension, I actually have different programs that are out at the moment where we're dealing with each one. So if someone's stuck in the third dimension and really wants to shift to the fourth dimension, I actually have a Transform Your Life program, which is an 8-week program where we actually just clear all the stuff from the past in their third dimension so that they can then step into that fourth dimensional level. And then for you guys that are in the fourth to fifth level of dimensional, going from third to fourth, where you're really want to staying in the fourth and kind of don't want to slip back into the third, I do have like a really special little thing that I'm doing, which is the Staying Aligned project. And what that is every day we actually go through processes and different experiences, rituals, tools, processes, anything that we need to do each day, which I'm guided to share, that we do each day to actually keep us aligned with not only who we are, but what we're here for, and to keep us aligned in that fourth dimension. But also just a reminder every day that if you slip into that third dimension, this is what you do. So this is where that Staying Aligned project is really quite powerful. In actual fact, we probably want all to kind of get to that staying aligned level where we're kind of going with the flow and everything's really good. And if something comes up, we can deal with it because we're at that level of remembering who we are and having the tools to be able to deal with it. So that's the Staying Aligned project, which I'm really having fun with. And then the next one, which is more for people who have stepped into the fifth dimension, is that we're going through and it's a new mastermind that I've set up, which is actually a mastermind based around experimental processes and how we're actually expanding out more into stronger universal processes and really expanding out to what is possible rather than being stuck in this limited dimension that we've got here. So, and I haven't actually released that yet, so I'm just getting expressions of interest at the moment with that mastermind, where we're just going to have so much fun experimenting every week on new ways that we can just blow our minds, which again, I'm excited about. So thanks everyone for joining me. You know, you guys all play in my groups anyway, so you can pop any messages in there. You can also email me at kimej@bigpond.com. Go through my website, which is Kim Ibrink Jansen, or you can pop in kimeft.com. But thanks, lovelies, for joining me. Again, any questions, just message me. Otherwise, I'll be in contact with all those new groups and come and play. I'd love for you guys to hang out. Bye, guys. Mwah. See ya.